So good morning, good afternoon. So we're gonna chart the course in this way. I'm gonna give a few introductory comments about collaboration and its relationship with STEM, and then I'm going to actually introduce the panelists that we have here, and then each one will come up for about 5 to 10 minutes to kind of give their take on STEM education and the relationship of collaboration to that, and how those two things are so integrally linked in order for us to really reach the success and hope and desires that we have to educate our children in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So NASA's role in STEM. NASA seeks to enhance Americans' understanding of our agency's accomplishments in human spaceflight, innovation, and scientific research. As such, we partner with universities and national education programs and the private sector, nurturing and equipping a future workforce that will lead us into another 100 successful years of existence. Adhering to the President's Memorandum Goal number 6, attracting and retaining top talent, NASA diligently encourages and inspires younger generations and minorities to express interest in STEM disciplines. Summer and fall internships, programs at each NASA center, and various initiatives such as partnering with the Badges for Lifelong Learning event in September 2011, the NASA Summer Innovation, and the NASA Kids Club demonstrate NASA's commitment to finding new ways to use its missions and programs to inspire leaders and learners. There are over 20 programs offered to students in grades K through 12 and higher geared to STEM education and opportunities at NASA's various centers, because we all do some things the same but some things different. And so there's a wealth of experiences that the kids at all levels can experience as they come into different centers. So if we relate this back to sort of the President's statement, NASA is doing its part in supporting the President's Educate to Innovate campaign. However, the challenges that we currently face are daunting, but not permanent. In 2006, the Program for International Student Assessment Comparison, PISA, American students ranked 21st out of 30 in science literacy, and 25th out of 30 in math literacy compared to students from developing countries. Think about that. That is daunting. This is a call to action that we must adhere to. Here lies an opportunity for NASA to play an integral role in improving these numbers and increasing students' interest. We have excellent schools, school districts, teachers, and eager students within our communities. Building bridges and encouraging them to participate in NASA internships and programs is key to our success, key to our mission, key to the success of this country. So as we talk about collaboration, we have to think about, even during this economic climate, we are working with fewer resources in terms of finances and workforce power. But if we partner, we can pool what we have our available resources in order to do the big things that we need to in order to address this issue. As it relates to STEM education, we can utilize incoming interns, leverage our communities and skills within them to build the next generation of scientists and engineers to support the NASA mission and to lead this country. They can teach seasoned professionals more modernized practices and techniques, and in return, they can receive from the seasoned workforce experience. I've seen this personally, where I had 13 interns in my organization this summer, where I matched up young with seasoned veterans within the organization. So really getting towards tweeting, collaborating in ways in which people of my generation hadn't even foreseen from a standpoint at this point, and how we integrate that into the way we conduct our business. Extremely important opportunities and skills that we can learn both ways. So this is not just one way, it's actually two ways. And if you look at the way that we support the communications for our NASA missions, we tweet, we have RSS feeds, all those things are new technologies to some of us. And so getting familiar with them and bringing young folks in to help us along the way is extremely important. So those are my finishing up the introductory comments and kind of setting the stage for this esteemed panel. So let me begin with our first panelist, Brenda Manuel. She is the Associate Administrator for Diversity and Equal Opportunity, and she is responsible for developing and directing the agency's equal opportunity, civil rights compliance, and diversity strategies, programs, and processes. In this capacity, she establishes agency-wide policies on diversity and equal diversity and equal opportunity to ensure statutory, regulatory, and fiduciary compliance with internal and external equal opportunity laws, and ensures consistency of approach to improve functional performance across the agency and create an open and inclusive workforce. So welcome, Brenda Manuel.
Thank you, Adrian, and good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here. The Office of Education is truly one of our partners, and we'd like to share with you how that partnership came about and some of the things that we do in terms of collaboration across the agency. When we talk about NASA's efforts to enhance our infrastructure for the STEM workforce of the future, a key roadmap for those efforts is the agency's strategic plan. Every federal agency is required under the Government and Performance Accountability Act to develop a strategic plan. The plan serves as a detailed guide and measurement system for that agency's performance in all areas of its mission. Our current NASA strategic plan, issued in February of this year, has 6 strategic goals. 2 of these goals are devoted to matters that bear directly on our topic of building the STEM workforce for tomorrow. Diversity and EO figure prominently in these 2 strategic goals, not individually, but in partnership and collaboration with 2 key offices, Human Capital Management and Education, as well as a number of other partners at both the agency and center levels, and stakeholders both internal and external to NASA. This has come about because of strong leadership at the top and the commitment of these offices and stakeholders. As a result, for the first time in NASA's history, diversity and EO are a cornerstone of our agency's primary strategic roadmap. Our NASA administrator has said often that it is his expectation that the offices of diversity and equal opportunity, human capital management, education, and small business programs should work together to make NASA a leader in its commitment to equal opportunity as well as diversity and inclusion. This includes working both internally to the agency and among our many stakeholders outside of NASA, not least of which are the STEM education programs. And so I would like to share with you the efforts which the Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity is partnering through the lens of NASA's current strategic plan, because it defines very clearly the collaborative role of the Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity and helping to shape NASA's infrastructure for the STEM workforce of tomorrow. One of the agency's strategic goals is, as you see, to enable program and institutional capabilities to conduct NASA's aeronautics and space activities. Under this goal, the agency has identified the following performance outcomes: to identify, cultivate, and sustain a diverse workforce and inclusive work environment that is needed to conduct NASA missions. It is here that ODEO, in collaboration with its partners, plays a central role in creating the infrastructure necessary to sustain our future STEM workforce. Our concern in sustaining a diverse workforce is not just in bringing people on board, but with ensuring that our work environment is hospitable and welcoming to all of our employees. And that's why this performance indicator refers not just to a diverse workforce, but to an inclusive work environment as well. Just our challenge here is to broaden, maintain, and sustain a diverse workforce with the right balance of skills and talents. This means identifying and addressing the needs and concerns of our current workforce, as well as working collaboratively to plan agency-level participation in outreach and recruitment efforts. More specifically, ODEO plays a critical role in creating and sustaining a diverse and inclusive workforce through the agency's model EEO plan and the agency's diversity and inclusion framework. And you will hear more about both of those documents on Thursday from our panel. And that panel is Building Bridges. As I noted earlier, we partner with a host of other stakeholders closely connected with the agency's infrastructure for enabling its workforce capabilities. For example, we work with the Office of General Counsel on matters of legal compliance with EEO laws and regulations, and responding to EEO complaints, as well as proactive measures, such as our agency anti-harassment program. We work with the Office of the Chief Information Officer to ensure that the agency's electronic and information technology is accessible to our employees with vision-related and other targeted disabilities. We work with the Office of Strategic Infrastructure to remove architectural barriers for individuals with disabilities. We also work with the Office of Communications on the many communications efforts relating to diversity and equal opportunity. We work with the Office of Chief Health and Medical Officer on issues of workplace stress, such as unresolved conflict in the workplace and the need to provide tools and techniques to address conflict. And also, we work very closely with the Office of the Chief Financial Officer in developing the strategic performance outcomes and annual goals for equal employment opportunity and diversity and inclusion. The other NASA strategic goal in which ODEO plays a critical role is, as you see there, share NASA with the public, educators, and students to provide opportunities to participate in our mission, foster innovation, and contribute to a strong national economy. While this strategic goal is primarily the province of the Office of Education, our office has a key role in support of the STEM workforce. We work to ensure equal opportunity, compliance, and encourage promising practices among NASA grant recipient institutions. These include university science and engineering departments that receive NASA grants for research and development, as well as science centers and museums that receive NASA funding for education and awareness. By ensuring that universities are adhering to non-discrimination laws, which in this instance are to benefit students, we are helping to ensure that the STEM workforce of tomorrow is one that is diverse and values inclusion. Indeed, our efforts are to help foster diversity and inclusion such that they become second nature for STEM program faculties, administrators, and students. As a result of our on-site reviews and publications, we have received feedback from a number of institutions. We have been informed that NASA recommendations for enhancing equal opportunity efforts have been a very positive influence for the learning environments in these programs. Again, we will hear more about these programs from our staff on Thursday. In closing, let me say that the role of my office is in shaping the infrastructure of NASA's future STEM workforce And that is only possible through collaboration and partnership. And through modeling strong collaborative efforts and partnership, we are helping that future workforce to go well beyond what we have achieved to sustain the success of the NASA mission for decades to come. I thank you.
Next we have Alan Ladwood. Alan returned to NASA for his third tour in 2009 as a political appointee of the Obama administration. So think about it. NASA is truly a great place to work. If he's coming back for the third time, soon. We actually do, on an annual basis, we are at the top of government usually for the best places to work in government. So just giving you that plug as well for our agency. He is currently serving as the Deputy Associate Administrator for Communications for Public Outreach. In addition to his careers at NASA, he has held management positions within nonprofit companies, prime contractors, media organizations, and entrepreneurial startups. His first job at NASA was in education, so he's a strong affinity for the STEM education community. Please join me in welcoming Alan Ladwood.
Thanks, Fabian. Well, I always like to have opportunities to speak with the education community since that was my first job at NASA. I was the head of the program manager for the Shuttle Student Involvement Project that took student experiment ideas and actually flew them on space shuttle missions. And then I got to be the manager of the Teacher in Space program so that we could actually get educators starting to be involved. And while the first opportunity for that was a tragedy, it turned into success with Barbara Morgan flying on STS-118 just a few years ago and having an educator astronaut program that the agency created. I'm also a huge supporter of the Space Grant Consortium that's been around now for, I don't know, what, Richard, 30 years, whatever it's been, 24 years. I was an early advocate of that and continue to be and like to engage with that community as well. For collaboration, there's no two organizations, I think, that need to collaborate more than education and communication, especially with restricted budgets. We got the budget passbacks today for the FY 2013 budget. That's why my boss, Dave Weaver, wasn't able to make it today. He's back at the office crying over what we got for a passback. Leland didn't find out until he got out here, but he'll be crying soon as well. We need to, with these restricted resources that we're having, and you all have seen the papers, you know the budget battles that are going on in Congress, and NASA has come out pretty well in the 2012 budget. 2013, we're still going to be fighting, and it's going to be tough, and things that we love to do, we are not going to be able to do. And so we need to collaborate more. We need to share resources. We need to leverage off of each other's activities, so it's vital. And we try to do that with through things like the Communications Coordinating Committee, the Education Coordinating Committee. We're represented on each other's groups. Education Coordinating Committee has been around much longer than the new Communications Coordinating Committee, but we are trying to learn from the great track record that the ECC has had over the past 5 years. And we've tried to model ourselves after that because the ECC has been able to do a wonderful job of getting all the centers, programs, and projects out of the centers together to collaborate. And if you think that's an easy job, come and work with me for a couple of months and I'll show you how difficult that can be. We try to also collaborate because my office is involved in public outreach. The Office of Education is involved in informal education. And there's a very fine line sometimes between what is considered informal education, what is considered public outreach. So it's important that we keep communicating with each other, that we don't get into sandbox mentalities or get to be too stovepipe. So we do that also through the NASA has what's called the NASA Advisory Committee, which is composed of people from the external to the agency that advise the administrators on different topics such as science, human space flight, and one of them is education and public outreach. So both Leland and my boss Dave Weaver work with the chairman of that committee to make sure that they are giving us the kind of advice that we need to do a better job of getting the NASA message out to the public. We also do this through strategic partnerships. I think one of the great successes we've had is LEGO. There's a strategic partnership we have with the Lego company. And if you look, Lego's created an entire website called legospace.com. And they've been to the last 3 launches, including shuttles, Juno, Grail, and then just last week, the Mars Science Lab, where they bring in their products, their little Lego bricks, into the IMAX theater down at Kennedy Space Center, and they dump piles of these around the room. It's a huge room. And there's probably, 10,000 blocks in one pile. I would have a hard, and then the kids come in with their parents, they get 45 minutes to build the future. Now, I would be challenged if I had one of those little Lego boxes in 45 minutes with instructions to put something together. You should see these kids come in there with their parents, and they dive into those piles, and then on the run have to design, build the future. They design rocket ships and control centers and satellites and airplanes. And in 45 minutes, they've created the future. And they get a certificate. But you see their innovation, their enthusiasm for space. And we have astronauts there usually to walk around, other volunteers that help them out. And it's an amazing, successful partnership. Another one that's coming up that will be announced later this month is called Third Rock Radio, powered by NASA. And this is a strategic partnership with a radio company down in Houston that's going to have a web-based radio station geared for ages 18 to 30, and it's radio programming with music for that generation, and then it's interspersed with news about NASA. It'll include a lot of education stuff, human relations activities, communication activities, and we're very excited because we've always been told we do a lousy job of reaching out and providing communication activity for that demographic, so we're excited about that. Another recent example, and I'm sure Leland over the next few days will talk more about it, was a collaboration we just had down at the Mars Science Lab with Will.i.am. Now, what does a rapper have to do with STEM education? You'll be amazed when you find out. I'm hoping during the week they'll hear more about that. But Will.i.am made a commitment, came down to the center, was there for the launch, is filming a documentary about his enthusiasm for education. He worked with Dean Kamen for the first robotics activity program. He's working now with Leland in our office on some other activities. And that's another example of a great collaboration and partnership. And instead of worrying about, well, who gets to work on this program, the education, the communication, we're doing it very seamlessly. Another area is the Speakers Bureau, which is in my office, but Leland has had an idea called the Inspiration Corps, which is a way to leverage the Speakers Bureau, have a better focus on it, to really inspire our own employees and contractors to get out and be more outward in their speaking to the public. And so we're going to be developing that over the next few weeks. And then finally, in the participatory engagement area, that's the first job I did when I came to NASA, was trying to get students engaged with experiments on the shuttle, the teachers involved in shuttle flights. We are now seeing that we have a tremendous amount of public engagement activity, participatory engagement activities, so that young people and the public don't just watch what NASA does, but it also gets to be directly engaged. Unfortunately, you can't find that information very well. NASA has a bazillion websites, which needs to be cut back considerably. When I say a bazillion, but it's a lot. And we need to kind of consolidate some of those, and we're going to have a clearinghouse with our office, much like education has for the internship program, where it's one-stop shopping. So we'll have a one-stop shop where we can connect you and your constituents to all of the public engagement activities that are out there. That'll be laid out over the next coming months. We're supposed to have had money in the 2013 budget for it, so when I go back to the office, I may be crying in the corner along with my boss, because I don't know if we got it or not. But we're going to do the web page anyway. It just may not have the money that I was hoping for, that I could put out as grants, to space grants, to nonprofit organizations, and to other NASA offices to come up with innovative ways to do public engagement. So the main message is that communication does not, coordination does not mean control. And if I can do a good job of working with the centers, the other mission directorates, and mission support offices at NASA, that we want to coordinate, we don't want to control, I think you'll see a much better job of communication and education in the year ahead. Thanks.
It's not a gazillion, but it's actually 3,700. Still a lot. Still a lot. My next speaker really doesn't need that much introduction, but that means I'll introduce him anyway. That's what that means. So Leland Melvin is the NASA Associate Administrator for Education. He is responsible for the development and implementation of the agency's education programs that strengthen student involvement and public awareness about its scientific goals and mission. In this role, he leads the agency in inspiring interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, through NASA's unique mission, workforce, facilities, research, and innovation. Melvin chairs the Education Coordinating Committee, or ECC, an agency-wide collaborative structure that maximizes NASA's ability to manage and implement its education portfolio. The ECC works to ensure the agency's education investments are focused on supporting the nation's education efforts to develop the workforce needed to achieve NASA's goals and objectives. Melvin currently serves on the White House National Science and Technology Council's Committee on Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Education, or COSTEM, and COSTEM coordinates the STEM education activities and programs for all federal agencies. So we have somebody who is leading the charge for education, not just within NASA, but also across the federal government. Please join me in welcoming.
Good afternoon, everyone. I can't hear you. Good afternoon. Thank you. My mother told me never be the last speaker in between the food. So I'm going to be very brief, but I learned collaboration at a very early age. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Santiago for that historical perspective. And I didn't catch your name. What did you? Elizabeth. You rocked it, okay? You rocked it. Thank you so much. And Adrian, Brenda, and Alan, thanks for those perspectives. But at a very early age, I learned what collaboration was. It was when I was in 6th grade and I turned over a desk and I got a spanking by Mrs. Carwile. She had her hand in my development. And then on the way home, I stopped by my friend Butch's house, whose mother was an educator, and they were collaborators. She had a hand in my development. And then when I got home, I got the real deal from my dad, who also had a huge hand in my development. But this was a community of people that wanted me to do the best that I could. Teachers that wanted me to be the best that I could. And when I think about collaboration now, in these physically constrained times, we have to work together as organizations, as federal agencies. I mean, within NASA itself, we sometimes don't communicate within the halls of NASA headquarters, within the different centers. So it's imperative that we as an agency in itself work together better, as Alan had mentioned, through this coordinating committee that they have with communication. Also, it's very important that we bring in our partners like Space Grant, like NSF, like other federal agencies. As Adrian had mentioned, we have this COSTEM committee that's looking at how do we work better as the federal government in ensuring that the dollars we're spending on education result in STEM students going into careers at NASA, careers at NSF, careers around the country, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, SpaceX, the likes. So it's very important that we take these constrained dollars and ensure that we're getting the most bang for the buck through evaluation, through common infrastructure. Dr. Matthews is setting up our infrastructure division. As you see, this one-stop shopping initiative, one portal for every internship, fellowship, and scholarship that come through that. No duplication. So that's saving resources at all the other centers, all the other organizations that are trying to do internships, fellowships, and scholarships. So what if this model works for NASA? Why can it potentially work for the rest of the federal government? So again, efficiencies and things that we can do to help save resources. I've already cried about the budget. I've already heard what I'm getting out, so my tears have all dried now. But whatever dollars that we get, we have to work in a smart way. We have to work in a way that's going to give us the results that we desire. And NASA historically has tried to do everything for all people in education. From K to grade, we try to do every single thing. NASA Education is not the Department of Education, but we have very unique assets that no one else has. And those are the things that we're going to focus on in education to give students, to give learners, educators, and institutions access to these unique things. But Alan mentioned will.i.am. We have this wonderful partnership, and I want to read an email that I just got from him about 2 hours ago. And Will said, from this experience of this unique opportunity of launching the Mars Curiosity Lab, he said, let's see if I can find it with my smartphone and the glasses. I'm almost there. Thank you all for making my Saturday a success. This memory will fuel my dedication, and I will continue to push this message in pop culture to the underground, the ghettos, and the suburbs, the importance of STEM education. I am committed, I am motivated, I am inspired. will.i.am. So these types of partnerships, we have them with rappers, ball players. We put physicists into Donovan McNabb's training camp to teach the kids the physics of football. So while they're learning about football and running routes, we're teaching them about geometry and center of gravity and center of mass. These things will help them with their football play. Coming on the back end to show them what STEM is all about. Music, we did something with Mos Def. He's a recording artist, he's an actor, he's a philanthropist. We did a video with him that he was teaching the science of sound waves. So when you think about the recording industry and where is STEM involved in that, STEM is involved in everything we do. It's involved in the arts, it's involved in music. When I flew in space for my first time, Quincy Jones, I flew one of his CDs, and Quincy interviewed me while I was in space, and he said, Leland, you know that math and music are the two true absolutes that use both the right and left side of the brain. So that if you know math, you know music, and if you know music, you know math. But we need to let our kids know that. We need to let our teachers know that. We need to use these strategic partners as ways to leverage the opportunities that we have in the federal government and in nonprofit and the private sector. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I know your stomachs are rumbling, you're hungry, but I just want to say thank you for putting this great conference on the table. And we need to network, have more opportunities to network, come together and figure out how we as a community can help change the world through our collaborations. Thank you.
I don't know how much time we have left. Somebody can give me a time check, but I think it would be important. I have some prepared questions, but it would be great probably to hear from you, because I'd like this to sort of be a dialogue. And so, is there anybody with a question or a comment? This is when you should have staged somebody in the audience and asked the initial question. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Do you? Okay. All right, let me start. What challenges do you foresee when we're seeking to encourage students and interested in STEM? What challenges do you think are out there from the standpoint of the panelists, and anybody can chime in?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that just what Elizabeth was talking about. We have kids that don't want to do something because they don't think that it's for them. When I was going to my interview to become an astronaut, the cab driver who was white said, "You can't be an astronaut." I'm like, "Well, why can't I do that?" He said, "Well, you're not in the military." I said, "Well, there are non-military people flying in space." And I said, "Well, you just can't do it." And so people will constantly tell you that you can't be a STEM professional because of where you're from what color you are, for whatever reasons. And I think, Elizabeth hit it right on the head. We have to celebrate who we are and what we bring to the table individually, which will enhance what we do in our contribution to STEM. As well as flying in space 70,500 miles per hour, I was going with African American, Asian American, French, German, Russian, the first female commander up on the vehicle. So we have to let everyone know that they have a place at the table, no matter what they look like, no matter how they sound, no matter what their hair color is, or if they don't even have hair at all. But we have to engage them and make them part of this discussion, to know that they can be part of the community.
And just one one other point. I think we really got to help them understand that science and technology is a cool thing to do. It is not this nerdy thing. It's the way you see it portrayed too often on TV shows or in movies. And I think the president has done a great job of trying to help us turn that around. He has continually engaged students at the White House. He's had astronomy night where they've had viewing of, they brought telescopes under the White House lawn and had students look up at the stars and planets. He brought them into the White House to be honored, the science fair winners, just like they were the winners of an NFL Super Bowl. And he even uses that analogy. He said, we don't only need to honor athletes, we need to honor our students as well. And I think that's going to become an annual thing that he will do. And not just, he doesn't do it just once, he does it continually throughout the year. So I think those things will help us as well.
Other questions? When you say math and music is a good concept, can you give an idea of how you would implement that to a school teacher so that she can teach something in her class that can relate music and math in a classroom setting?
If you look at that video that Mo Steph put together, you can see while he's singing, you can see the sound waves that are actually coming out from his voice. You can see the different frequencies that are coming out. If he sings low or sings high, you can just relate to high frequency waves that look like this. And you don't have to show it mathematically, you can just show it visually what it looks like. And then we have this sine wave. There is an equation, y is equal to sine x. And that's the equation that maps to what that curve looks like. In which, if you change the amplitude, if you change the frequency, you can show how that equation of changing those variables will change the timbre and the sound of the tones coming out of your mouth when you're singing. So you could either just take an oscilloscope or take something on a laptop where you have an input, you have kids singing into the microphone, and let them see the curves, and then let them figure out what equation maps to that curve. And that's math, and that's music.
And another great resource, by the way, for that is something called the Futures Channel, www.futurechannel.com. They put out a weekly video, a vignette, not very long, of how science and math is used in different professions. And it's everything from how a musician would use it to how the design of a bicycle. Today's, I think, just came out, was about how to make pro sports sunglasses for skiers. And if you go to that website and you can find what they've done about music, that's another great resource, and you can get on their distribution for the weekly shows that they do.
So let me just move to the last question, and then we'll get to each one of the panelists. So finally, if you had to just leave this audience with a parting shot, what is that take home that you want from your various perspectives? What would that be? So one last quick one.
I think one of the things that we need to be mindful of is that collaboration, diversity, and inclusion are cornerstones to whatever we do in this area. I think if we are going to influence our youth, as well as those that are already in colleges and universities today, we've got to let them know that it's okay to be different. It's okay because every one of us has a unique talent that we bring to the table. And we want to cultivate every single talent that we have in this country. That's what will unite us.
My message would be that for anybody that says NASA doesn't know how to communicate, you have my personal approval to punch them in the nose. We, in fact, I think, do it very well. Our documentaries have won Emmys. We've won Webbies for our websites, and we do have a lot of them. We are recognized as a leader in social media and things like tweet-ups. We just had a great tweet-up down at the Mars thing last week. 150 people came in at their own expense for 3 days to learn about NASA. And we have all these different programs. If anything, we may have too many things going on. And as Leland said, we are not the Department of Education. If we start to communicate too much, then we get slapped down by the Office of Management and Budget in Congress and said, well, you should be out marketing yourselves. So we always are dancing this fine line. My other closing message is NASA's budget is 0.45% of a $3 trillion budget. 0.45. That's less than a half cent. And people say, well, why isn't NASA doing things like they did during the Apollo mission? During the Apollo mission, at the high point in 1968, I think it was, NASA's budget was 4.5% of the federal budget. The decimal point was moved over and out. It makes a big difference.
Amen, brother. Closing comments. I think I was watching CNN this morning, and they had a guy named Dyson on. And he developed the Dyson vacuum cleaner as an inventor. And he said that he went through 5,000 different iterations before he had a successful vacuum cleaner. Now, when we teach our kids to the test, we teach them to the right answer, and they are so afraid to fail. We have to teach them that failing is okay. As we build things, as we develop things, we've lost 3 vehicles, and we've lost multiple people. Apollo 1, Challenger, and Columbia. Now, if we had given up after Columbia, we wouldn't have our astronauts up on the space station right now. We can't give up. We are a civilization of explorers, and that's what we do. We don't give up. We keep going. So if we don't get our kids to start thinking that it's okay to fail as they're building things with their hands, they're going to be hamstrung into thinking that they can't be science engineers because they don't want to fail, because they want to get the right answer all the time. So we have to kind of instill that into our kids that it's okay to fail.
Thank you all very much. Please join me in thanking our panelists.